True reconciliation cannot be achieved by denying the past, argues Nobel laureate Archbishop Desmond Tutu in his book, No Future Without Forgiveness. The adopted tenet of those standing witness to commemorate the 150th anniversary of the end of the American Civil War, abolishment of slavery, and assassination of President Abraham Lincoln. Hi, welcome to this segment of In Our Community. My name is Lovey Spencer, and I'm your host. It is in the spirit of Tutu's Truth and Reconciliation Commission, convened by the President Nelson Mandela, to bring about healing and ills of apartheid, that our guests in the studio, the Reverend Kathleen Crowe, Episcopal Chaplain, Executive Director of Canterbury Bridge Ministries at San Jose State University, and via Skype from Hawaii, the Reverend Jerry Drino, founder, Hope for South Sudan, have become sponsors and organizers of Standing Witness, a symposium at the New Student Theater at San Jose State University, which traces advances and struggles in civil liberties and civil justice of California pioneers of color, from emancipation to the 20th century, from San Francisco to San Jose. Welcome, Deacon Kathleen, and aloha to you, Father Jerry. So nice to have the book.
Nice to be here, Lovey.
It is such an interesting perspective to look at this issue from a localized perspective of the Silicon Valley. How exciting this project and this symposium is. Father Jerry, the first time that we met each other was last September. It was at the commemoration of the Cassie family and the ancient grave site. How did we come from Sudan Ministries to the Cassie commemoration to today publicizing this wonderful symposium? Bring us up to date on that, if you will.
Sure. Thank you, Lovey. Good to be with you. Well, I'm a Californian, and I'm a San Josean. And when we live in a fast-moving society like Silicon Valley, oftentimes we do not realize that there was a history 20, 30, 40, 150 years ago. And one of the most significant members of the San Jose community in the middle of the 1800s were Peter and Anna Cassie and her mother Henrietta, a part of the founding group of African Americans in San Jose, starting actually even before the gold rush. And discovering their stories over the last 30 years has been an exciting journey for me, because it affirms the vitality of oftentimes a very hidden part of our community that laid the foundation for other social movements of justice and liberty for people of color in San Jose and well beyond that. So that's why we're bringing this together on the anniversary of the 150th year of the end of the Civil War, the Emancipation Proclamation, the beginning of a series of amendments to our Constitution that are still to be realized to give full citizenship and ability to participate fully in our society.
Thank you. Deacon Kathy, the first time that we met, it was at Mayor Sam Liccardo's faith initiative for gang prevention. And we were talking at this instance about the new slavery, which is human trafficking. how do we go from the point of your involvement with the Canterbury ministry on San Jose State campus to this point today in promoting this symposium?
Well, my interest in Bay Area anti-trafficking is deeply rooted and something that I'm working on right now, Lovey, to raise awareness in San Jose. Modern day abolitionists that I've come to know really reflect over 25 million people on the planet that are in bondage. And so to support this and sponsor it through the Episcopal Chaplaincy at San Jose State was a really easy thing to do and celebrate.
Thank you. Father Jerry, provide us an overview of how we got to the point today of the Cassie's resolution before the General Convention of the Episcopal Church and the significance and the outcome of that, if you would.
Well, in many churches, the term saint is applied to person or persons that are exemplary of qualities that we all should strive for. And oftentimes in our calendar of saints, we look to Europe and to the Near East for persons, but we have saints right here in our own community that help shape us. When Peter Williams Cassie was 22, he left Philadelphia and came to California, arriving in San Francisco in 1853. When he arrived here, there were over 4,000 slaves in California, and that's hard to believe for most people who think slavery was something, an institution of the South. But the Southerners had brought their slaves with them, and even though California was a free state, the powers that be looked the other way in terms of the practice of bondage in the state. And it would not be until after the Civil War that tighter rules were imposed. Peter came probably as a young man looking for a chance to make a fortune in the gold country, and of course he didn't, like most people. But what he did find were all these slaves, and he had inherited a significant amount of money from his father at his father's death, probably something comparable to $60,000 in today's dollar. And what he began to do was to buy slaves and then to liberate them. And he, in a sense, was one of the first to build the Underground Railroad in California and to help move them out of California into Oregon and even on up into Canada, which were much more liberal and progressive communities at that point. In 1860, he came to San Jose, and again,
Father Jerry, we're going to have to interrupt you here. We appreciate that. Our audience is going to have to come to campus to hear more of that story. But before we conclude here, we would like to hear of the person that has organized all of these wonderful presenters. I first became aware of historian Professor Jean Libby from an exhibit that was done at the Martin Luther King Library at the Heritage. Deacon Kathy, can you tell us about Professor Libby and some of the people that she's gathered for this?
Well, it's just a real honor to have met and get to know Jean. Jean actually studied in African American history at the University of California, Berkeley, and then went on to get a degree from the San Francisco State in ethnic studies. And so she's been a historian since really the 1960s, working on the issues of slavery and ethnic concerns in Santa Clara and the Bay Area.
Could you tell us about some of the exhibitors that she's going to have? Could you just mention a few of them?
We're extraordinarily excited to have Professor Herbert Ruffin come from Syracuse University to be our keynote speaker at the symposium. And Herbert Ruffin will be talking about his book, Uninvited Neighbors, on the African American plight. And then we have a wonderful opportunity to have Jean present on the John Brown's family, the famous abolitionist, and his family, little known to most people, lived up in the Saratoga Hills, and people don't really know that happened, but Jean has been instrumental in bringing that forward. We also have a wonderful opportunity to hear Stan Yogi talk about Wherever There Is a Fight, his book on runaway slaves and a timeline on the Civil War. And then there will be a presentation from Dr. Stephen Pitty on his work on Chinese concerns in the pioneers of that ethnicity here in San Jose.
So it's a whole broad spectrum of people of color.
And not to mention what Jerry's going to talk about on the Cassies, and then of course your wonderful roundtable with millennials to talk about their viewpoint on race issues today.
Father Jerry, could you just in conclusion talk about that roundtable and what we envision the outcome of it to be as not the end but a next step?
Right. Because we look at the past in order to understand our inheritance, it's really the next generation, which we are calling the millennials, that are the ones who will take this heritage and move it forward. They have a very different perspective than that of their parents and grandparents, and so it will be interesting to hear how they respond to the input of the past of San Jose as they have come to inherit it, and then to talk about what are the coalitions that might be built between ethnic communities so as to have a much more inclusive society where there is equal opportunity and ability to be really judged by the merits of your accomplishments. And so, Lovey, you brought together, I think, a very exciting cross-section of young people, and I look forward to seeing how they respond to our input.
We look forward to it as well.
And I just need to make a little correction because I spoke incorrectly. Bonnie Montgomery really is the one who did the Chinese studies, and then the Mexican-American focus is the one that we're looking to Dr. Stephen Pitty, his work and his timeline. So
fine.
Yeah.
And I think the both of your email addresses, if people want to know further, can be in touch with you.
Right.
Thank you, Deacon Kathy, for being with us. Aloha to you, Father Jerry.
Mahalo.
Well,
in the concluding time that we have together, you were at the finishing of the commemoration. I sent you a letter of gratitude for your truth-telling at graveside, and I included a passage from Paul's letter to the Philippians as a part of that. Including this session, I would like to read that passage and dedicate it to all of you who will be in that truth-telling session at this symposium.
Well, Lovey, before you do that...
We're about to run out of time,
we
unfortunately.
Because we haven't said when the...
Finally, beloved,
all right.
Whatever is true, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about those things.
and welcome to In Our Community. I'm your host Vidya Pradhan. In this segment, we'll be profiling Vibha, a non-profit organization that focuses on child development and child education. With me in the studio are Surya and Vinu. Surya Rajagopalan is the coordinator for Vibha's Bay Area chapter and oversees the activities of Vibha in the Bay Area along with the volunteers. He works in a semiconductor company and has been with Vibha for nearly 2 years. Welcome to the studio, Surya. Vinu Srivatsan is a digital marketing professional. She's been with Vibha for 4 years, writing grant applications, managing the marathon training program, and most recently organizing Holi, a fundraising event celebrating the Indian holiday of color. Welcome to the show, Vinu.
Pleased to be here.
So, Vibha is an organization that we've previously profiled in our show, In Our Community. If you put in the words In Our Community Vibha in YouTube, you should be able to look at our last show. And in that show, we discussed at length what Vibha's mission statement was, what are the kind of projects they were doing, and how they went about choosing their projects. In this show, we'll be talking a little bit about how they raise the funds by doing very innovative and exciting events for the community. And before we start off though, Surya will tell us a little bit more about Vibha for our viewers. So, Surya, why don't you just begin by telling us about Vibha?
Sure. So, Vibha is a entirely volunteer-driven, volunteer-based, US-based non-profit organization that empowers every individual who wants to make a difference in the life of underprivileged children, be it in the India or the US. Any individual who wants to make a positive change in the life of underprivileged children, Vibha empowers them.
And one of the things that's very unique about Vibha compared to many non-profit organizations that work in the Indian space, because there is, of course, India is a place where there is so much need that our focus tends to quite go and land there all the time. But the unique thing about Vibha is that you do several projects in the US as well.
Yes, we do.
In our last segment, we talked about one of these projects called My New Red Shoes. And today, why don't you tell us about some of the other projects that Vibha is doing in the US?
Sure. The local community that the local chapter, the money they raise, part of it goes to the local community to support the activities there. So, one of it is in Raleigh. It's called Stop Hunger Now. So, they pack lunch boxes, food, and they deliver food to schools kids, so that there's this kids below poverty line, they don't even attend school because they don't even have a meal. So now they attend school because Stop Hunger Now kind of gives them food during school time.
Isn't it strange to talk about hunger in the US? You'd think that that's a thing that we should have sorted out by now, but the truth is that there are many hungry children here as well.
Yes.
And so Vibha takes into account that that's the case as well, and does some project work for them as well.
Yeah, it's mostly about child cause, so which is children in India and US.
So wherever the need happens to be.
Absolutely.
So this project is called Stop Hunger Now, and it's in Raleigh, North Carolina?
Yes.
Okay. And tell us about another project.
Yeah, there's we support many more. One such is called City House in Dallas. So there are these youth and teens, kids who run away from home because of a conflict in their home, or they are removed from their home because of mistreatment or ill treatment, or they are neglected, and some of them are homeless. So City House of Dallas, they kind of take care of them. They provide beds to them, and they provide counseling. They take care of them in foster homes, or in better cases, they try to rejoin them with their family, reunite them with their family. And they also provide these therapies and see what can be done about them, what plans they have for the future.
How does Vibha help them?
So there is a chapter in Dallas similar to one we have in Bay Area. So they raise money through local community and programs, events. So part of this money goes to the City House, and the volunteers go on and volunteer there on a
regular basis.
Now,
we know you were also telling me that Vibha volunteers work quite a bit in the local community as well. So why don't you share with us what
So as Surya mentioned, we are a 2,000 or so active volunteer organization in the United States. Not only do we do things like writing grant applications for from companies and things like that, we do local community hands-on. One of the things that I think personally really feel empowered with in my volunteer work is when we go out in the field and hands-on provide service. It's the armchair philanthropy versus the hands-on being on the ground and in the situation doing it. I think that gives us a lot of satisfaction. Tomorrow, for instance, our volunteer community in the Bay Area is going to be at the local Sacred Heart packaging food for some of our beneficiaries. So those are things that not only bring the volunteer community together, but also bridge us to the local community here.
That's wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about some of the fundraising events you hold in the Bay Area. One of them is coming up pretty soon, and that's one is called the Dream Mile. I noticed that you're wearing T-shirts about that feature that. So tell us a little bit about Dream Mile. What is this program?
Dream Mile is, I think it originated as a walk in the park, pardon the cliche, but it really was back in the early days of Vibha, I've heard, and I was in there at the time. But it originated as a family event for Vibha volunteers to fundraise, and it was based in Vasona Park. Today it's grown to be a 1,500 5K, 10K and half marathoner race, if you will, but I think it's more about the awareness and fundraising than racing. And it's actually become quite a carnival / bringing the community together effort.
Do you get a lot of professional runners who come and participate here?
We have actually become quite the athletic race. I have been really excited about the actual athletic participation in the half marathon. In fact, some of the time when I'm running, they're all running back already. It's a loop. And so we do have, I think about a third of our half marathoners are hardcore athletes.
Yeah.
And is it a timed run that they get credit for?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, they get credits. They get certificates, medals. They have chips inside in the bibs. So it's professionally timed.
Very professionally done.
So something new is happening this year, and I think you can tell me about that when you talk about the Dream Team, which is the marathon training program. And so why don't you tell us about that?
Okay, I am trying to control my excitement here about the program. What originated as, again, volunteers wanting to train for this half marathon that we were offering has really grown into a very strong program, which not only delivers fitness to people who subscribe to that, but also we fundraise. So the way that this works is that we have 2 coaches who are completely pro bono. The program is run by volunteers who are also free of cost, and we also get a lot of donations from local community businesses. And we train them from March to June for a half marathon, which is the Dream Mile race, and then a full marathon, which we typically train towards the SF Marathon for a very, very reasonable fundraising amount. And this gets the awareness out.
How much is it?
For a half marathon, it's $750. And if you have a company that gift matches, typically it becomes half of that. And for a full marathon, it's about twice that.
Twice as much.
Yes.
And do you get novice runners?
I had never run when I joined. I've been doing this 3 years now, fourth year this year. A lot of our runners, trainees are beginners.
Oh, that's excellent. It's similar to some of these marathon programs. And where do these funds go typically?
So we do, of course, collect all of that towards the common fund that the Bay Area chapter collects. And then we, based on the allocation for that year, what projects are determined as the most effective, we allocate. And the Doorstep School and My New Red Shoes are the 2 projects that Dream Mile has funded in the past. And Surya would be able to speak about the plans for this year, but we pretty much feed into the Dream Mile event.
So for the benefit of our viewers, I want to mention that the website is vibha.org. That's vibha.org. And if you miss out on some information here in the show, please do go to vibha.org and you can get more information about all the fundraising events. We have about 5 minutes left in the show. So let's talk about the Dandiya, which is a very, very popular event, which at least the Indian community knows about, but it's not exclusive to the Indian community. Everyone is welcome. So let's quickly, if you can just quickly tell us about what Dandiya is and how many and how Vibha does this.
Surya, do you want
Surya,
to
would you
talk
like to
about
take this question? Yeah, go ahead.
So Dandiya happens for 2 days. It's during the 9 days of, it's called the Indian Navratri festival with dolls and stuff. So
it happens in the fall.
It happens in the fall. So we hold it for 2 days. Usually it falls in the October. This year it falls on October 10th and 24th. It's in Fremont. It's in Centerville Junior High School. We have about 1,000 patrons each day who kind of dance and have fun. and we have professional artists playing music, and we raise a lot of money and awareness in the local community. And it's and all these patrons kind of, we have queries coming in earlier, so they want to kind of reserve their tickets before.
For the benefit of our viewers, I must say that Vibha events are usually sold out. They are very, very, very popular. So if you're interested in any of these events, please do go and check out, keep checking out, subscribe to their newsletter, whatever they do to get you information, and do participate in this, because this is a great way to participate in an event and enjoy while you're giving back to the community. And I really like that aspect of it. So let's talk a little bit about the different ways that people can participate in the in Vibha and give back. And one of the ways that we had talked about last time was change for children. This is a very simple and easy idea. You just keep this box in your home and then fill it with whatever loose change you have every evening.
Exactly.
And that's what I've done. I took this box from you guys last time, and I would like to hand it over to you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So this is my little contribution to Vibha, and as you can see, this little box is something that a Vibha volunteer will be able to get to you, whether you own a commercial establishment and want to keep it on the counter, or whether you want to keep it at home to just collect your loose change and give back without even feeling that you're
Bailey
doing
is one
it.
of the biggest contributors for Change for Children, and rightfully because of all the good people here.
Right. And so that is, and there is also an excellent youth chapter. So if you have a high schooler interested in community service, it's a great way to participate in it. What other ways can people help Vibha?
Our events attract a lot of youth volunteers to this coming weekend. We do have the Holi celebration, and within 2 days of posting on Volunteer Match, we had 100 interests expressed to volunteer. And so I think with the youth wing, for instance, they organize all these interesting games like
they have table tennis, they have spelling bee.
The idea I think I really like is that you have fun while you're giving back.
Absolutely.
And that makes it painless, that makes it enjoyable, and that makes you committed to the cause. Well, thank you so much, Surya and Vinu, for being with us today. And that's all we have time for in our segment. I hope you will go and check out vibha.org, vibha.org. This is your host Vidya saying adios, namaste, and goodbye.